Welcome. This is the Drupal usability meeting for September 29th, 2020. I'm Benji Fisher, recording the meeting, and we also have Christina Chumelis or Sakrina. And no one has requested any particular issues for us to review, so we've looked at the issues tagged with needs usability review, and there are several that are in the needs review state. And Christina has chosen this one, which is marked major. So up to you, Christina.
Okay. So, first time I land here. So let's see. So it says expose the triggering update of media metadata and thumbnail to the end users. I guess this is Bartik or the front-end theme. And on the...
And for the recording, can you read the issue number?
Oh, yeah, sorry. It's 298345.6. So, okay, problem motivation is spin-off from another issue. In that issue, it was identified that in many places, it might make sense to let user trigger or force an immediate update of the assets metadata. Okay. Proposed resolution exposed on the UI the possibility of end users with correct permissions to trigger an immediate update of the assets, metadata, and thumbnail. So this will be on the front-end theme. This will be on the back-end theme. One is on the third place, the other is on the last one. One is on the quick edit. I think this is no. This is the the quick links. I don't know how is it called. Anyway, and the other is on the operations.
Yes.
And that's also an action under the list for media. Okay. Oh, cat. Important for the issue, yes. I guess we should try that. And we actually haven't triggered any simple test name. When was this needs usability review was added?
In comment 4.
So they were so it seems that this is a spin-off of a more technical issue about when it needs to, the entity itself, the media item needs to be actually be updated with changes. Anyway, nothing to do here. So so it looks like this is a review needed after Marco's proposal about creating this update metadata. So he suggests this link and all the places that are shown on the issue summary. So I think another thing would be great to check when the issue summary was.
Updated?
Yeah. Basically to know issue summary.
So it's a little curious that the issue summary mentions that it was spun off from that other issue, but that other issue was closed as won't fix.
Exactly. So it looks like on date from the last October by Marcos, several screenshots were added. So it looks like the screenshots are quite updated. And I guess the needs usability review is about the whole, the fact that we have this here, not about anything else.
Like, is it clear from the label what it's doing?
I like something that Andrew was proposing here, which is the text saying update from whatever is the source, like update from YouTube. Even refresh. Yeah. Yeah, probably the metadata, it's technically the more correct one, but maybe it's a little bit ambiguous for a final user, because at the end, it's probably the user that we're talking about.
Yeah, it's not at all clear to me what update metadata means. Does that mean that I have to type in some new values? Or from that comment you were just looking at, number 10, it seems like it's importing the metadata from the source.
Exactly. Just checking the rest of the comments to see if there are more discussions that can affect the suggestions or the proposal done so far, because Andrew's comment was interesting. And override to override. So this is more a technical discussion that, okay, he's actually discussing this. Okay, so he's commenting, he's commenting, I see that refresh from YouTube is more self-explanatory than the current label. I'm afraid it could be very tricky to get this right in a reasonable effort. Okay. Refresh from file, refresh from image. It's a good compromise. Compromise that is accurate in all scenarios. So he's basically saying if you don't know what a metadata is, you should search about what it means before actually using it.
So the link is there for those who are looking for it.
Yeah, actually, one of the things that says the summary is that just the people with permissions should be able to see it. But how many times we haven't seen actually a project where you invest a lot of time on several roles, and at the end, most of the user end up with most of the role with actually all the permissions and all the effort there for nothing, and they end up having more power than they are capable of understanding. So although I kind of agree with that, I don't know. I mean, Drupal is complex already. I'm not sure if we should keep adding more technical technical text or concepts on the UI that the final user is going to see. He's commenting, he's suggesting something about a problem with Vimeo, that specifically with thumbnail, it can be changed, it can change. I don't know. So the rest are patches. What are the patches doing? Okay, it's failed. Would you mind trying meanwhile also? It just, I don't know why, but it's always failing for me.
Okay.
Because it's Drupal 9, okay, 9.1. Let's check that, 9.1. Okay, let's try a Umami demo. What else? So what do you think, Benji? Does it make sense for you?
If you give me a minute, I think I can apply the patch and start as a running site. But a few things. I think it probably needs a release note snippet. It needs some documentation somewhere to say what this is doing. You know, as someone who doesn't use media much, I am sort of at a loss.
So I'm not really sure about update versus refresh. I'm not sure technically what's the difference between one and the other. I mean, it looks like
Oh, the patch needs a reroll.
No. I think anyway, what we can actually say here, or all we can add to the discussion, for what we can add, we have enough anyway with this screenshot. So I think it is useful, but it can be super confusing also. So my question is, if I click on update metadata, is it going to take me to somewhere else, or it's just going to retrieve again all the information? Because for me, updating, it's like it could kind of mean that I have to go somewhere to make all these updates. Instead of, if I do a refresh, it means that whatever I'm seeing, it's going to be refreshed or updated or something by an external source. Well, externally means, I mean something that it's not on the page itself. It can be an internal file or external from YouTube or whatever. So that's why I think refresh makes more sense.
You think that has more of an immediate connotation to it?
I'm not a native English speaker, so that's for me what I would say. I'm not the best person here, maybe, but that's what I could understand. I mean, update metadata. I'm not sure if this is going to take me to another page to update that metadata myself, which actually I could do with just edit.
Right,
So,
and in some contexts, when you have a menu, there will be 3 dots and ellipsis indicating that choosing something from a menu brings you to a dialogue or something where you interact. But we're not using that pattern here. We don't have edit ... We just have edit. And I guess we don't see any screenshots of what happens after you click it. There isn't any confirmation screen.
no.
And I guess perhaps the reason it failed on Simply Test is because the patch didn't apply. This is...
But the last one seems patch failed. Okay. Oh, with 8, but with 9 in theory, it's working.
Well, it was working on...
was working like 12 days ago, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I will write the comment about this, that we miss this information about what's going to happen when we click here. Is the page going to be refreshed? Are we going to go to another page? What do you think? It's a good feedback?
I was also going to volunteer to leave a comment. I think that...
Perfect. Yes, thank you.
So I think, actually, let me take some notes somewhere. So I think we need a release note snippet. And we need some documentation somewhere. I'm not sure where. You know, if we have this new feature that can be triggered, but it's not clear from the user interface exactly what it does, then we have to say somewhere exactly what it does.
Exactly.
It needs a reroll. That's easy. The issue summary refers to a closed issue. So that's that should probably be updated. It refers to an issue that was closed as won't fix. So that's not really helpful. And reconsider the word refresh.
If it's happening on the same page, maybe.
And
I don't know.
Is there a confirmation page with more information, or does it just happen? And in addition to some sort of permanent documentation, I think the issue summary should give a better description of what sorts of things happen for a local document. What happens when you click refresh metadata for a remote YouTube? What happens?
Right.
And maybe that information is in this issue it was spun off from.
Yeah, so some people seem they were discussing some of these things, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know the here.
Well, it's
So
not a good use of the meeting time to be scrolling through comments,
nope.
looking for the answers to these questions. That should all be in the issue summary.
Yeah, agreed. Let me know when you're done writing the notes and I will start presenting the new one.
Yeah, I am done.
Okay. So major. Okay, so the next one on the list is another for media. And the issue number is 2984093. And the title is Inform Users that Media Items Don't Inherit Access Control from Parents. Meaning that Drupals provide private file access will grant access to the file to whoever has access to the entity where the field is attached. So it means that if you create a node and you add the file in there, if you have access to the node, you will have access to the field itself.
Right. If there's a file field on a node and the files are kept in private file storage, then access to the node gives you access to the file. I think it's possible to give different criteria, but this is what Drupal gives us out of the box.
Exactly. What I'm not sure what says right now is this is still true when using files attached to a media entities.
Right. So the point here is that we're sort of encouraging people to use media references where they used to use file references. And now there's a chain of three entities. There's the node, there's the media, and there's the file.
And then, exactly.
And so if you have access to view the media entity, then you have access to the private file. But there's no default connection between access control for the node and access control for the media. And I guess this is
the file. Yeah.
basically because media are all about reusable media. And a file field on a node is only going to be used by that node, but a media reference could be used on a bunch of different nodes.
Okay, so basically this issue is the issue to explain this problem to the user instead of fixing it. Because it says, while the real fix is being discussed on this issue, which is postponed, okay? This issue is to explain, to reduce the confusion and making it explicit that Drupal does not that out of the box for media.
Right.
Proposed resolution, action 1. Show some messages to the site builder to make that situation clear.
And this would not be for the content editor, but for the site builder, the person configuring the content type.
Exactly.
Or the media type, I guess.
yeah, so right now this one is to explain that on the media entity, the media source, sorry, field. But this is for media? Media types. Oh, this is the media itself, not the file. The file is this one.
All right, let
Another.
me read the warning text. It's right underneath the breadcrumbs on the page. So it's above the list of fields. There's only one field. The source field is configured to use the private file storage. By default, the media items will be accessible to any users with access to file2 media, even if the user does not have access to content that references it. And then there's a link with the text, more information on configuring media access restrictions.
Okay. Well, the person that is building a website, that is building a Drupal site, should know in theory all these concepts like source field, private file storage, media items, whatever name you have given to the media entity. So even though the description seems complex, in theory, a site builder should be able to understand it.
Right, it's not aimed at end users of the site. It's not aimed at content editors. It's aimed at site builders. And I think that's a decent message.
Yeah, then, oh, there's a check on the status message page. Oh, and it actually checks this. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, so for the recording, let me read it out. So on the site status report, it has a message like this: media types, audio, file, file2, image, video, use the private file storage. By default, the media items will be accessible to any users with access to audio, file, file2, image, video, media, even if the user does not have access to content that references them. And then there's a link with, I think, the same link text, more information on configuring media access restrictions. And finally, there's a message added to the help text for the media module. Media and private file access. Media items behave differently than files and images when restricted access is concerned. While files and images, when configured to use the private storage, will inherit access permissions from the content where they are attached to. I think that's a little ungrammatical. While files and images will inherit access permissions, media items have their own access restrictions. This usually means that by default, users could have access to files and media items, even though they do not have access to the content that references the media items. And then again, the same link, more information on configuring media access restrictions.
So something that is a bit confusing here, especially if you don't really have a lot of background on Drupal. I mean, while files and images, maybe we could describe a little bit more, like media file fields and image fields, or documents, or I don't know. I mean, this seems a bit ambiguous to me compared to media, which already it's ambiguous. Even the naming has to be ambiguous because it can do a lot of things. So I'm not sure if there's a better way to say. Obviously, we can say the old files and image fields. We can't say that, but maybe there's a better way to express that. Not sure how, but or maybe just me that I'm seeing this confusing.
Oh, we don't necessarily have to come up with the correct text. We can point out where it seems confusing or ambiguous and ask them to improve it.
Good point. And then they actually created this page and needs all this information. It says warning message, but I don't see this as warning at all. Like a message itself. It's more like an introductory text that might describe this. Not sure if we really need to have a warning here.
All right. It's a message or a description. It's not a warning text.
Which I'm not sure if we really need here. I really think this could be actually a good place to implement the status messages, like messages that are not warning or errors or something like that, more like on a status, like the blue version of a message, like like just some information on the page. Like, hey, here you have some information. Because visually, if I don't read anything on here, for me, this text on the first option on the media field itself, I would think this is an explanation of how this table work. I mean, probably I wouldn't stop to read it. Not sure if this is really. I'm thinking more on a visual perspective rather than on if this has the appropriate text.
Okay, so you think that first screenshot, it should be set off as a status message, not just as a paragraph of text.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I don't think we are using that anywhere else. So I'm not sure if just for this text here we should do that. I don't want to jeopardize this issue with that. And I don't think in core we have implemented these status messages right now, at least not for 7. So probably it was more me thinking loud.
Okay.
Than other thing. So yeah, anyway, probably don't put that in there. I can't think on anything else to suggest here.
No, the documentation page is still a stub. They have to finish that.
They have this as a remaining task
Yep.
before committing. So when actually was the needs usability review was just added the first day they created it. So hey, they actually had this as a warning at the beginning. Report warnings because they can lead the site owner to think something is malfunctioning. Right, and that's why we should have status messages. Right. Okay, probably that. Yeah, this issue doesn't need to account about adding a status messages, but this definitely is something that will make sense. But if we add that to core, we should create another issue and start that on there. So nothing to do here. Okay, then nothing else to say on my side.
Actually, if you look at comment 6, Marcos removed the needs usability review tag because it was discussed on
Okay.
July 11th, 2018. But then he added it back in comment 7 just for the final wording.
Okay. Taking into account that this specific here could change this text, I don't really think the help text will be a blocker per se.
I'm sorry, can you say
I
that
really
again?
don't know. I'm not really sure that the small thing that I would suggest here to change what I said about the help page, about files and images, just describing it as what I said about just saying images and files rather than image fields and file fields. Or I don't know what would be the best solution for this, but I don't think that should actually be a blocker for the issue. I don't think that's a huge thing on my perspective. I don't know. I'm just trying to think about how confusing it can look like for a site builder without actually a lot of experience.
Well, we give them a link to the documentation page that still needs to be written. So I think
Right. Good point.
there's only so much you want to put on this page, and the link will give them more information. I wonder if we should turn around that long sentence.
Yeah, it's like a bit confusing with complex concepts if you're not used to.
So instead of while files and images, blah, 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 media work this way, perhaps it would be clearer to start with media. Say media items
Exactly.
have their own access restrictions, unlike files and images, which work.
Right. I agree.
And probably make it separate sentences. Keep the sentences short.
Also agree. because they don't look as long as they really are here, because we have a super long white paragraph, but it's a really long sentence.
Yes.
Okay. Did you write that down?
Yeah.
That was the suggestion. The suggestion.
Okay. All right, I can add a comment to that one too.
Not sure if we have time for one more. I would say so. Do you have 15 more minutes? 10
Yeah.
more minutes. Yeah, cool. So next one. This one is not about media, it's about the workflow initiative. The issue number is 2906568. It says, provide users with the option to select an appropriate moderation state when reverting to a previous revision. Okay. So the problem is that when reverting to previous revision of an item of content, the new revision created matches the moderation state of the revision being reverted. While this gives integrity of the workflow, intact.
Should be one word, intact.
Yeah, right. Since content can only be recreated in a state that was valid at some previous point in time, it might not always be what users expect, and it limits the utility of reverting in general. Since certain options can only be recreated and immediately published, or can only be recreated and reverted back to a draft. Cool. Okay, so a few proposals have been made. Allow only reverts to default revisions, alter the access for the revert action to also require some kind of content moderation permission, leave it as is, but probably with some messaging. So let's make the UI more complex. Although it depends, it might be easier. Another suggestion, could we simply add the moderation select list to the revert confirmation form? And the last one, building on adding a moderation select list to the revert screen, but introducing additional permissions for reverting to each state. And workflow already complex enough, which is moderation, content moderation. Adding all this, yeah, it's probably needed, but it's going to make it even more complex. So let's see the first one, or maybe we should check when the needs review was added. It was added 3 years ago. Revert and set to publish. This makes sense. This is talking more about implementation. And then here we have surprise at the end, 3 months ago. So although they are not sure if this might apply, but being from 3 months old, probably it's done. And also if we need to set up a workflow states, maybe it's too much. But then they're discussing here to implement a generic revision UI.
So that's issue 2350939. I don't think I want to get distracted by that issue.
Yeah. The problem is that if this is introducing new things into the form itself or the UI to the workflow itself.
So I kind of feel that we shouldn't try to review this issue until its proposed resolution is updated. It's currently listing various options that were discussed in 3 different comments, but at this point the issue needs review. They've decided on one of the proposals. I would like them to tell me what it is.
Right, and with some screenshots also to see the UI, that how it looks, if it makes sense also.
Right, so probably just the screenshots in comments 18 or 19, if those are still current, if those are just added to the issue summary under user interface changes.
Exactly. So this will need an issue summary update with all this information.
So yeah, I think we can just set the issue back to needs work for an issue summary update. And I've written that comment many times. I can do that.
Okay. And I don't think we have time, like in 4 minutes, to review anything.
Right. So thank you, Christina. I think this has been a very, very productive meeting, and we're going out and seeking out issues that need review. It would be better use of our time if the people working on these issues could come to the meetings or at least make our jobs easier. But I think we've made a lot of progress today, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you for writing everything later.
And with any luck, I'll be able to upload the recording to the issue by the end of the day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.